Well, the Book of War Horse has been out a very long time, so kids have been responding to it for nearly 30 years now. What's the most common response, I would say, is that it's not about the war or the horrors of war. It's about the horse and the boy, and it's about the love between the two. Well, I would say half of the people who come to the show, kids I'm talking about now, will have read the book, roughly, and half will not have read it, and most of the adults will not have read it. So what the show does for most of the people there is to introduce them to not just the book, but the story of horses in war, and to many of them to the story of the First World War. I think that's what we very often tend to forget about young people, is that they're, I would say, even more capable of deep feelings, spontaneous feeling, than grown-ups are. Where grown-ups are rather good at covering it up. We spend our lives trying to cover these things up. Children tend to look at the world with wide open eyes and a wide open heart, so they'll cry more easily and they'll shout and scream more easily. Actors I know on their play have often said how wonderful it is to have 1,000 kids in the audience, because when something is about to happen, maybe Joey is about to be shot, people will scream, "No, no!" and they love that. They love the fact it's immediate, whereas adults will they'll still be tense themselves, but they hold that sort of thing in. And the first thing to say is you cannot be creative unless you are interested. So you have to care. Above all, you have to care. Otherwise, simply don't bother to start. So how do you get to care? Because children don't go around these days caring about the First World War. Why should they? The only way that can happen is by reading some books, going to see a play or two, preferably War Horse, but there are other things you could do. Soak yourself in the history of it, in the loss of it, before you start trying to work out how am I going to paint my picture, how am I going to do my drama. Then it will come naturally, then it will come because you will care. You will not walk into those museums or read those books or see those plays if you are a human being without coming out very upset. And I think in a way you have to be upset. If you're not upset and you're just writing a story about war, don't even bother to do it. War is not entertainment. I didn't write War Horse or any of the books I've written about First World War to entertain people. There are other kind of books for that, and that's fine. There are other kind of plays for that, and that's fine. But about war, it has to be done because it's upset you. It's made you cry inside, or maybe cry anyway. And that's what you respond to. You respond to the grief of it and to the people who had to live through it, and then you'll find your way into the story. I wish, actually, every young person in this country could do this, is to go and see the graves in Belgium and in France. And you stand there with 2,000 graves all around you in these very beautiful, peaceful places. And you read the names of these soldiers who died all those years ago, who were these sons, who were these fathers. And you look at the age. Sometimes they're 17, sometimes they're 18, they're boys. And they had no life. You know, they never grew up to be a father, they never grew up to be a grandfather, they never had a life like me at all. I'm 70. In a way, I do think to myself, well, you haven't got a right to go on much longer. I mean, these poor people, they didn't give their lives. That's one of these things. We use language wrongly. Their lives were taken. And that we mustn't forget. They didn't put their hands up and say, I want to die. You know, I want to die for freedom. I want to die for the country. They wanted to live for the country. And when I was writing the book, all that was really in my head as I was writing it.